I was wondering if we could go on to covering the incidents.
Certainly, yeah. Just going back to last time I was in here, we'd have to cast our mind back to September. It's not too far away. Friday the 2nd of September in the afternoon, we were paged to investigate a report of a small rib drifting off the Minster Lees. We were tasked, and the CNS inshore lifeboat was tasked to the scene, but on arrival nothing untoward was found, and we were stood down. There was obviously no problem in that particular one. On Saturday the 3rd of September at 5:30 in the afternoon, we were tasked to Warden Bay to assist the ambulance service with a person who had nearly drowned in the water. Now, allegedly, he was winkle picking. He was a winkle picker.
Right.
And he got into difficulty in the water, and he was taken to the Medway Maritime Hospital for further examination. Now, if I said to you, have you ever heard of the terminology secondary drowning, Daniel?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, well, you can sort of, the fluid in the lungs builds up,
right,
and you can drown hours later.
Do you know what? If you get a bit of water in your lung, a teaspoonful,
right, and
you lay down at night, that teaspoonful of water can froth up and suffocate you. And that's called secondary drowning. So even if you've taken on a minute bit of water, we will always recommend people to actually go to the hospital. And just after finishing that incident, where it was observed from Warden Point, red distress flares had been deployed towards Whitstable. Again, we launched the Whitstable lifeboat and tasked Herne Bay Coastguards to assist. There was a search conducted, but again, nothing untoward was found. On Wednesday the 7th of September, in the early hours of the morning, we were paged, I remember this one myself, to assist Kent Police in the search for a despondent male, suicidal male in Sheerness. As we were actually going to the area near Tesco's, the individual was located by the police safe and well, and we were stood down. On Thursday the 8th of September in the afternoon, we were asked to attend the Lilies in the Swale, where a vessel was reported to have run aground with 4 persons on board. Now, that's off the island, and that's in an area called the Lilies, which is very near Milton Creek. Sheerness inshore lifeboat attended and checked the arrangements being made for the craft to refloat on the following tide. With everything in order, the team stood down, and the craft eventually refloated as arranged. On Saturday the 10th of September in the morning, tasked by Thames to attend the shingle bank at Minster to insist on the recovery of a despondent female from the water. She was actually trying to kill herself, in essence. The individual was recovered from the water and passed on to the care of the ambulance service. On Sunday the 11th in the afternoon, we were asked to meet a 21-foot speedboat, Rocksteady, which was being towed by the Southend lifeboat into Sheerness. Once they arrived, relevant safety advice was passed. On Tuesday the 13th, we were just passed to standby a vessel which had run aground at Sandend. Nothing untoward, everything was all right on that one. On Saturday the 17th in the afternoon, we were asked to meet and greet a 20-foot yacht Tigress at the Queenborough all-time landing after she's been dismasted. The yacht was towed into Queenborough by Sheerness inshore lifeboat, and myself and my colleague, the station officer Nigel Woolley, were involved in that. We passed on. The only guy who was actually properly equipped was the skipper. His wife and his 11-year-old daughter weren't equipped properly with a life jacket, so he had the life jacket on. They only had buoyancy aids, and they were actually in quite a bit of distress when we got them off. On Sunday the 25th of September, myself and Andy Redman were on, and this was the start of what turned out to be 10 days of a very interesting incident. We've had an email come in by Colin King. I remember that a lot of bombs were found at Laysdown recently. Does Ian know where they came from? I hope they're not from the wreck at Sheerness. Well, I do know where they came from, and they weren't from the wreck at Sheerness, but more about that later, because we've got some interesting things to talk about on that. Well, I have. And so the first thing was at 11 o'clock, Andy and myself were tasked to attend Minster Lees, where a seal had been reported on the beach. By the time we got there, it got like a fish in its mouth, and off it went. Right. Just disappeared. Now, I need to tell people this because they look very nice and cuddly with those big eyes.
Yep.
Don't go near them. Whatever you do, they have what's called zoonotic diseases. Zoonotic diseases, which are diseases which we can transfer from animal to man. Now, a seal carries more than most. If you get bitten by a seal, you've had it almost. If you get bitten on the finger, you get what's called seal finger. It goes black and drops off. It's as simple as that. You keep away from seals. You don't go near the blowhole. You don't go anywhere near them where they can bite. They get very distressed. They can kill themselves trying to get off the beach quickly where they're distressed. And if the mother finds a smell on them, she'll abandon them. So keep well away from them. Don't do anything untoward. Certainly don't frighten them. If you get bitten by them, you need immediate medical treatment. You can get all manner of pathogens from there. You can get something I had when I went to Russia, a disease called Giardia, and I'm telling you this now, you don't want that. So keep away from seals. So Andy and I had gone down to Laysdown as part of the patrol. We just parked up, tap on the window, and a chap says, "Oh, I've got a photograph to show you of something I found yesterday." Of course, as soon as he showed it to us, we recognised it as a shell. Not a shell, a bomb type shell. And we then made arrangements for the Explosive Ordnance Department from Plymouth to come up. In the meantime, we dealt with another meet and greet of a disabled yacht, and we passed on relevant safety advice by the crew. And then Andy and I went back probably about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We got kitted up with our waders on and with our life jackets and everything, and our sealed mud suits, and we waded out and found this particular device quite easily. And what we did is we marked it off, and then we made arrangements for the EOD to attend. Now, in essence, what they did is 7 o'clock that evening, they came up from Portsmouth. They stayed at one of the local hotels, and at 3 o'clock they got up in the morning because of the tide conditions, and were met by two of our guys. I think it was Henry Ranger. I don't think it was Andy, because both Andy and I had to go to work. I think it was Nigel, but definitely Henry Ranger. And